complicated than a road. When you have a road, you've got traffic moving in a line one way and traffic moving in a line the other way. You look at a lot of our waterways, oh my goodness, there are so many vessels and they're moving in different directions and different speeds. And you think about being a manatee, it's not just, the same as, a deer trying to cross a road where you've got two directions of traffic and just those couple lanes to cross. Just about all manatees here in Florida have scars from previous boat hits. Even calves a lot of times have scars, and then certainly the older the manatees get, the more of these encounters they have.
Because I do a life history program, and the primary thing is to recognize the manatees year after year. You do that by identifying the scars that they have from the boats. We have fingerprints, they have scar patterns.
At the lab where the necropsies are done, at least 2 manatees have come in over the years that have had 50 separate boat strikes. 50 is not the norm, but that's a high number, and multiple strikes is common for just about every manatee that's out there.
When we get reports of manatees that were injured by boats or have been struck by a boat, usually injuries present themselves in a way that's either kind of from an impact injury, where there's internal trauma, the animals will be potentially flailing, there may be a broken rib that punctures along and causes a buoyancy issue where the animal is excessively buoyant. We also see injuries that are more from the cut trauma, so we'll see deep lacerations and wounds that are bleeding or showing massive trauma. We have lots of different ways to catch manatees. Our primary way is to use a specialized boat and a full crew of 9 to 10 people and catch the animal that way in open water. But we also have, for smaller animals, we have a hoop net. We can also catch animals that are close to shore using just a land-based net set.
Same with what we would do with any manatee that we get into the hospital is basic measurements. We take weight, we'd get a straight length, and then we'd give them antibiotics. We may give them an injection for pain and anti-inflammatory as well, and do a blood draw to assess their condition. And then we put them immediately into a pool. We start them in shallow water and slowly lower them so that we can assess how lethargic they are and how well they can swim. In the case of a boat strike manatee, we'd specifically be looking for any buoyancy issues. Sometimes when they come in, they only have a little bit of a buoyancy problem and they're still able to dive under the water. And in that case, once they start eating, they usually heal pretty quickly. In the case where they may be excessively buoyant, called a pneumothorax, where they have a puncture to the lung, then we would do what's called a chest tap on them, and we'd insert a needle into the chest cavity and leak that air out. And then we would have to assess them over a few days to make sure that they don't refill with air. And we've had a number of cases with that, although it's very critical, and it can unfortunately go the other way. We've had a number of successful cases that we've been able to release back to the wild that have come in that condition.
What they can go through and still be able to survive. Some of the boat strikes have been very severe. We've had ones that have come in with their calf, have some sort of severe injuries, and still let that calf nurse from them. It's amazing. They have that will and urge and want to fight for their life, and so we want to help them.
We currently have a mom and calf in that came in a few months ago where the mom had been hit by a boat, and she had a small amount of air trapped in her chest cavity from the puncture to her lung. When they did the rescue, they brought in the calf with her because it was still a dependent calf. It needed its mom so it could continue nursing. It was too young to survive on its own in the wild. Over the last few months, we've been able to successfully rehabilitate the mom, and along with the calf, she was able to nurse her calf the entire time, and we hope to release them soon together in the near future so that both mom and calf benefited from the rescue. They'll be able to go back out into the wild, and mom will be able to teach the calf how to survive in the wild. So the manatee that came in today, we did a quick assessment of overall health in the truck. We did measurements, we took a weight, We took blood, we gave it antibiotic injection, and then we got it into the pool. She is slightly buoyant, and that's due to the impact of the boat puncturing her lung or getting a little air trapped in her chest cavity. Fortunately, she's able to dive under the water. So from here, we're giving her a little bit of food right now, so we'll watch her closely over the next couple days. Make sure that she starts eating, make sure that she's passing feces, doing all the things that a normal manatee should do. We'll watch the length of time that she's able to dive under the water, and hopefully over the next couple weeks that length of time that she's able to stay submerged will increase. We hopefully in the next day or two will give her a companion, because that will make her feel more comfortable and hopefully help her start eating, which will help her heal. So we'll just watch her closely and see how she progresses from here.
One morning we got a call about a manatee that had been hit by a watercraft, and when we got to the scene there was already 3 people there trying to assist the manatee that was hurt.
The people had life jackets, so we asked them if we could put the life jackets under the manatee's head, which helped the manatee breathe. This is the first time we noticed manatee actually had seizures, and every time it had seizures it would roll and flop, and then we'd have to give it a few minutes to calm down so it's safe for all of us.
There were cuts on its head and on its tail, and we had heard that it might have been struck twice, which means it probably felt the boat and then tried to make a maneuver away and maybe got hit again. Hold on, yeah, that's not good. Hang on, that's not a good sign.
If you see an injured manatee, we ask you that you call our 800 number, a wildlife alert number. That's 888-404-3922, and you'll be in contact with our local law enforcement dispatch center. And from there, they'll dispatch your call to whichever field station is appropriate to respond to that call. We obviously want to know about any self-reporting. If you strike a manatee, calling us immediately is the best first step, because that gets our resources in play. That gets us investigating the situation and potentially sending resources to respond. Staying with the manatee is important as well, because if you leave the animal and you go somewhere else, by the time our teams or our response units get out there, the animal could be anywhere, and a lot of times we end up losing sight of the animal and can't find it at that point.
Unfortunately, the boat that hit it didn't report it. And that's one thing we were trying to get the public to understand. If you run into a manatee, hit it with your boat or any other watercraft, just report it. You might save its life, but at least try to give the thing a chance. By not reporting, the poor manatee didn't have a chance at all.
In terms of whether you get in trouble or not, that's more of a law enforcement issue. If you're obeying by normal boating speed zones and those sorts of things, that there's not going to be an issue.
Manatee that came in with the head trauma, when he came in he was unresponsive due to the injury to his head. He basically wasn't able to surface for breaths on his own, so we put him in a life jacket and with a pool noodle under his chin to keep his nose above the water so that he was able to get his breaths. And we had to watch him for 24 hours a day for 3 days, and then unfortunately he didn't survive his injuries because they were too traumatic, because it was a direct hit to his head along with a secondary hit further down his body.
Simplistically look at the manatee issue, try to put boats against manatees, or Save the Manatee Club against boats, and I think really there's nothing that could be further from the truth. Save the Manatee Club has always supported responsible boating. The thing that we've always recognized is that there has to be a balance, and there have to be good rules in the right places, and people have to adhere to those rules in order for manatees to be protected.
Manatees are actually
quite good at avoiding boats when you think about the fact that they used to live in an environment that didn't have them. It's a very steep learning curve for manatees. It certainly has been here in Florida. You really need to give them enough time to get out of the way, and they have to have some place to go. You know, manatees, their instinct when they're trying to avoid a boat is to dive out of the way. So you have to think about the waterway that they're in. If they're on the shallow grass flats and there's a flats boat coming towards them, they can't dive out of the way. There's nowhere to go. The other thing that we'll see is sometimes the deeper water, if the manatees are on the edge of the grass flats, that deeper water's in the channel. And so you actually see animals heading into the channel, which could be where boats are. So we often get asked about prop guards, and yes, prop guards can be helpful as part of the solution. They're not an entire solution. It's actually the impact that is often most fatal to manatees. A lot of the scars you'll see on living manatees were caused by propellers, and while we certainly want to minimize those, simply putting propeller guards on and then, you know, eliminating all the other protections wouldn't get us where we need to be.
I'm Tom Shirley, and I live on Newfound Harbor Drive in Merritt Island, and my wife and I both enjoy the manatees that come around our dock. And we were concerned because of all the boats that speed around, and we saw the opportunity to put up one of these signs, and we jumped at it, and they seem to work, and we've encouraged our neighbors to put them up also.
We want people to understand that we are not anti-boating, but we are pro safe boating and responsible boating, and we are pro manatee protection, and we do think that there's a way for that to be done.